An unexpected kiss, a maid's heartwarming act changed everything as her secret was revealed. In the charming town of Maplewood, where every lawn sparkled and every fence gleamed, there lay a quiet struggle hidden beneath the pristine surfaces. Ella, a devoted maid for the affluent Thompson family, spent each day meticulously cleaning their upscale home. In her heart, however, she carried a heavier load, her spirited daughter, Lucy, approaching 13, with dreams bigger than their circumstance. Together, they painted a life defined by laughter and hope, but shadows of doubt sometimes crept in. Ella, with her worn hands and weather-beaten smile, taught Lucy about resilience. It's what's inside that counts, love. Character over currency, she'd say, as they scrubbed floors and organized closets. Ella cherished these moments, grateful for the bond they shared amidst their struggles. Yet, that bond was soon to be tested. One evening, their neighbor Mary, desperate and overwhelmed with bills, knocked on Ella's door, tears glistening in her eyes. Without hesitation, Ella offered her last $10. It felt right, but in Maplewood, doing the right thing didn't always resonate. Whispers began swirling, questions about Ella's worth arose, treating her kindness as a flaw. The town's facade cracked open, revealing layers of judgment. The tension didn't end there. Lucy found herself captivated by Nathan Thompson, the carefree son of her mother's employers. His charm was magnetic, pulling her into a world so different from her own. Yet, with each shared grin, Lucy felt a tug of loyalty to her mother, a worrying conflict brewing in her heart. Was liking Nathan a betrayal? As fate would have it, at a community charity event, Ella's past emerged. She stood on stage sharing stories of her previous nonprofit work, a mission to give back to Maplewood, transforming lives in ways the residents couldn't fathom. Rumors intensified. Was that Ella, the maid? Is she hiding a privileged past? The air thickened with unspoken judgments. Lucy listened, emotions swirling through her. Pride surged as she learned of her mother's hidden side, yet confusion flooded her. Why hadn't Ella spoken of this before? She glanced across the room, making eye contact with Nathan, and felt the magnetism of hope battle against her fears. Could their worlds truly collide? Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As Ella confronted Margaret Thompson about the rumors, their exchange echoed through the gorgeous hallways, tension rising. My worth isn't defined by this, Ella declared, her voice strong yet shaky. The Thompsons gasped, and for a moment, silence blanketed the room. But Nathan stood firm, stepping beside Ella, eyes filled with an unexpected admiration. He felt the pounding in his chest mirror Ella's struggle, and then it happened. An unplanned, heartfelt kiss burst forth between them, igniting a moment pregnant with possibility. It was more than just a spark, it symbolized shared understanding, the bridging of two worlds. As the gasp of surprise rippled through the crowd, Lucy watched, heart racing, realizing that perhaps, just perhaps, the walls separating their lives were finally beginning to crumble. With Ella's secret now unveiled, and Nathan's hand intertwined with hers, the stage was set for something bigger. Would they have the courage to shatter societal barriers? Or would rumors lead them into the shadows once more? As tension simmered, the true journey lay ahead, with hearts entwined and futures unsure. What would they build from the ashes of misunderstanding? The whispers that filled the air were sharp, like the crackle of electricity before a storm. Faces turned, eyes widened, and gasps resonated throughout the room as the kiss lingered in the stunned atmosphere. Ella pulled away, a rush of color painting her cheeks. Nathan's gaze met hers, a blend of surprise and reassurance twinkling in the depths of his warm brown eyes. They both stood there, united by that unexpected moment but surrounded by a chasm of uncertainty. Lucy's heart raced, caught in a whirlwind of emotions. She clenched her fists by her sides, trying to process what she had just witnessed. What did it mean? Her mother had kissed Nathan. She felt a strange mix of pride and fear bubbling inside her. Was this the bridge to the world she longed for, or a fiery chasm that might burn them all? Margaret Thompson's voice cut through the tension like a shard of glass. This is disgraceful. You, a maid, should know better than to engage in such displays. The disdain in her tone dripped heavily, and Ella instinctively flinched. With a deep breath, she straightened her spine, fighting the urge to retreat. I may be a maid, but I'm also a mother and a person deserving of respect, Ella fired back, her voice steady despite the fierce pounding of her heart. The room fell silent once more, the air thick with both awe and apprehension. Nathan, placing a protective hand on Ella's shoulder, spoke then, his voice firm. My mother is wrong. Everyone deserves to be seen for who they truly are, not who their job defines them as. An uneasy murmur broke out among the attendees, but it was clear the tide was beginning to turn. Lucy's heart swelled with pride for both of them. Was it possible they could challenge the suffocating expectations of Maplewood? Suddenly, she spotted Mary at the back of the room, watching with wide eyes. The weight of their neighbor's struggles flooded back into Lucy's mind, grounding her. All of this was more than just a moment for her mother and Nathan, it could signal change. Just then, Ella turned to Lucy, her expression softening. I didn't want to burden you with my past, she explained, squeezing Lucy's hand. But you have to know, being brave sometimes means going against the grain. Nathan shifted closer. Your mom is strong, Lucy. And you can be, too. You're not defined by where you come from. Lucy nodded, but doubt still nibbled at the edges of her resolve. Could she really embrace the future they were all fighting for? Could she brave the whispers that would follow? As the evening wore on, tension began to thaw, yet Lucy's mind danced with questions. She noticed Nathan's genuine smile, the way he remained close to Ella, offering her quiet support. Perhaps it was a sign of hope, an indication that people could rise above their assumptions. The lingering conversation began to swirl around her, a promise of friendship, of connection, despite the odds. It sparked something in Lucy, a courage that ignited her heart. Ella, feeling that spark, leaned down to whisper, whatever comes, we face it together. Remember, love always conquers judgment. With each passing moment, the foundation of their lives began to shift, laying the groundwork for something new. But just as they started to breathe in the possibility of change, a harsh voice rang out from behind them. You think this is over? Everyone turned. The looming shadow of a disgruntled neighbor, holding on to the remnants of discontent, had surfaced again. A new wave of tension swirled in the air. Would they stand strong against the inevitable backlash? Could they hold on to the fragile hope they had begun to forge? And as the questions echoed in her mind, little did Lucy know, the real challenge had just begun. The room felt charged, alive with fear and defiance. The stranger's voice cut like ice, sending shivers down Lucy's spine. She scanned the faces around her, seeing curiosity mixed with apprehension. Was this what it felt like to tiptoe on the edge of change? The air seemed to thicken, filling with unspoken questions. Ella turned, her jaw set, shimmering courage igniting within her. We want to be silenced, she declared, her voice steady despite the chaos brewing within her. Lucy admired her mother's strength, the way she stood tall, unyielding against the storm brewing around them. The neighbor, Mr. Jennings, stepped forward, his face a mask of bitterness. You think this is the beginning of a revolution? It's only a frivolous act of love. People like you should remember your place. A ripple of murmurs passed through the crowd. Uncertainty mingled with sympathy, and for the first time, Lucy felt a spark of hope. Could they truly stand against the old beliefs that had bound them for so long? Nathan shifted, filling the gap between Ella and Mr. Jennings. Love isn't frivolous in a world that's tried to tear us apart. It's the glue we need to come together. His voice was loud and clear, and with each word, it echoed in Lucy's heart. Mr. Jennings scoffed, but the crowd was shifting. Lucy noticed a few hesitant nods, echoing her own internal struggle. Was it enough to stand together? Or would fear drive them back into silence? Lucy! Someone called from the back. It was Mary, her eyes shining with unshed tears. We believe in you. We believe in change. Lucy's heart raced. Mary's support flooded her with warmth, making her skin prick with excitement. The people of Maplewood were beginning to awake from their slumber of complacency. They weren't just observers anymore, they were part of this fight too. Ella smiled at Mary, the warmth in her eyes like a beacon of light among shadows. Thank you, Mary. This isn't just about me or Nathan. It's about all of us. We deserve to be heard, to be respected. The crowd shifted, tension cracking like glass in a warm sun. Conversations erupted, voices layering over one another, but among the noise, hope began to bloom. They shared stories, dreams, and fears, unified in their desire for a brighter future, yet, as the energy swirled, Lucy couldn't shake the cold knot of worry in her stomach. What if this moment fizzled out? What if fear held them back again in the face of judgment? She felt the weight of expectation resting on her shoulders. As she gathered her thoughts, the harshness of Mr. Jennings cut back in. You think the rest of us will stand by while you try to rewrite the rules? There are consequences for defiance. You'll regret this. Ella turned towards him, fire dancing in her eyes. We want to create a community where no one lives in fear. We won't regret standing for what's right. Tension hung in the air. Could they really challenge old beliefs and create a new reality? Could courage prevail over silent submission? The crowd erupted in supportive cheers, and in that moment, Lucy felt the beginnings of something powerful. The bonds they were forging could topple mountains, shifting their world just enough to let hope shine through, yet, just as they built the courage to stand strong, another voice emerged from the crowd, sharp and taunting. You're dreaming if you think this will change anything. Every face turned, hearts pounding at this new threat. Would they fall apart with a single word, or would they find strength together when it mattered most? As Lucy looked into Nathan's eyes, she understood this was the turning point. With the right support, everything could change. But could they hold on to that feeling long enough to forge a new path? The air crackled again, anticipation rising like a tide. With one last look at her mother, Lucy whispered to herself, together, we can make them listen. But only time would tell if their voices could withstand the storm that was brewing on the horizon. The crowd buzzed with uncertainty, various expressions surfacing, intrigue, doubt, and a simmering hope. Lucy could feel the temperature of the room shift, like a storm brewing just outside their door. Mary's declaration of support sparked something within her, a flicker of bravery, but it was overshadowed by a creeping sense of dread. Who dares to say we can't change? Nathan countered, his voice rising above the murmurs. We've spent too long being told to sit down and shut up. This is our moment. More cheers erupted, punctuated by fists raised in solidarity. Lucy watched as Ella's steady resolve transformed into something radiant, buoying everyone around her. Yet, the shadow of Mr. Jennings loomed large, his discontent swirling like dark clouds. Enough with this foolishness. You think love can erase years of tradition? His voice dripped with contempt. But as Lucy stood there, shaken yet resolute, she saw something different in Mr. Jennings, a flicker of fear beneath his facade. Was he afraid of losing control, or of being left behind? Maybe, just maybe Lucy found herself speaking, her voice trembling but growing stronger with each word. Love is the very thing that can change everything. It can break chains that have held us captive for too long. There it was. Her heart beat wildly against her chest as she spoke, the weight of her words hanging in the air. A few heads turned toward her, eyes wide with surprise, as if awakening from a dream. Suddenly, a young boy, barely 11, shouted from the back, I want to love who I want. His innocent declaration brought a wave of laughter and agreement from various corners of the room. Lucy saw the shift in energy. It was no longer just adults discussing what could or couldn't happen. It was a collective outcry for change, an echo of what had been whispered for too long. The walls that had confined them were beginning to crack, brick by brick. Let us choose to build a new community, Nathan added, glancing around the room. One where every one of us can live authentically without fear. Where our differences make us stronger, not weaker. Lucy felt heat rise within her, igniting something fierce. This was their moment, they couldn't let fear drown it out. Each voice mattered, together they could create a wave unstoppable. Before she realized what had happened, her hand found Nathan's, fingers intertwining. The warmth surged between them, a spark that carried everything they felt. Wasn't that what they were fighting for? A space where love was a strength, not a weakness. Yes. Lucy shouted, her courage spilling over, let us be the change we wish to see. We can redefine together what it means to love, to belong. Our community can thrive on acceptance. A swelling cheer rose up, gathering momentum like a rising tide. Faces lit up, bright-eyed and hopeful. Clear voices joined in, we choose love. But before Lucy could breathe again, Mr. Jennings stepped forward, visibly shaken. You're risking everything. His voice softened, unease creeping in. In that moment, she saw an opening. Maybe they could reach him, maybe they weren't only fighting against him but could find a bridge instead. And what would it cost you to listen? She asked softly. The crowd hushed, curiosity peeking everywhere. Would he respond? Would he see them not as enemies but as neighbors yearning for something better? As the silence gnawed at the edges of her mind, Nathan squeezed her hand tighter, grounding her. She felt anchored, ready to face whatever Mr. Jennings would say next, yet, even as the hope surged, uncertainty blanketed her heart again. What if this was all just a momentary spark? What if they would falter? But that one question echoed, coloring every breath she drew. Who would take the first step toward bridging the divide between what was and what could be? Lucy held her breath, eager and afraid, knowing the next words could tip the balance in either direction. The air thickened with tension as Mr. Jennings stood before them, contemplating Lucy's question. Her heart raced, the weight of his silence haunting the space. All eyes were glued to him, a sea of emotions swirling in the room, anxiety, hope, anticipation. Lucy felt Nathan's hand warm in hers, an anchor in the storm. Finally, Mr. Jennings spoke, his voice low and unsteady. I built this community on tradition, on what's safe, what's expected. Change shakes foundations, he admitted, a flicker of vulnerability behind his stern facade. Yes, but traditions can suffocate, someone from the back shouted, prompting murmurs of agreement. Lucy's heart leaped. This was their moment. Don't you want to know what's possible if we open ourselves up to love? Mr. Jennings's brow furrowed. You speak of love like it's a cure-all because it is. Another voice chimed in, bold and clear. Ella stepped forward, her eyes fierce. Love has the power to heal wounds, to break down walls. It's the very foundation of who we are. Lucy couldn't help but admire Ella. The strength radiating from her friend was palpable. She was a lighthouse in this storm of uncertainty. With each word, they were building something greater, a bridge to understanding. Mr. Jennings shifted his weight, the tension in his shoulders easing slightly. What if your love causes chaos, divides us further? Then we learn together, Nathan replied, his voice steady. Isn't there a chance that unity, accepting love, makes us stronger? Cheers erupted once more, like a rising tide crashing against the barriers built by years of tradition. Lucy felt a sense of groundedness swell within her as faces turned toward each other, smiles blooming. It was infectious. But Lucy noticed Mr. Jennings's hesitation remained. The fear in his eyes was unmistakable now, mingling with a flicker of resolve. Maybe he could be a part of this change. Mr. Jennings, she said softly, all pretense and bravado slipping away. What would it take for you to open your heart? To let us show you how acceptance isn't chaos, but freedom. His gaze flickered, studying her, and Lucy held her breath. Would he take a leap of faith? Just then, the boy who had shouted earlier piped up again. I only want to love my best friend. Why should I be afraid? That's what this is all about, Nathan added, capturing the boy's eyes for support. Children shouldn't have to fight for their right to love. It's pure, it's simple. We need to clear the way for them. Lucy felt her voice growing stronger, more certain. We're not asking to erase the past, we want to create a future. With you. Something changed in Mr. Jennings's expression. The tightness in his posture eased a fraction more. You ask for a lot, and I don't know if I can, but what if you tried? Ella urged, stepping closer to him. What if you allowed a little love to seep in? Just a crack. For a moment, the weight of the room hung on his shoulders, and they could all feel it, the collective breath, the tremble of anticipation. Would he venture into the unknown with them? Lucy felt her heart pounding. She had never been this close to something so monumental before. The possibility of change, acceptance, mutual understanding hung in the balance. Mr. Jennings took a deep breath, his eyes narrowing on Lucy. You believe love is powerful, don't you? Yes, she replied, her voice unwavering. And so do you. As the crowd shifted, leaning in, closer to this moment that seemed to stretch endlessly, a strange comfort began to weave itself through them. Something was cracking, and they could feel it, a shift. Before she could prepare, he took a step back, lifting a hand. I'll consider it, but just then, a loud crash interrupted them. A window shattered from outside, scattering shards across the floor, fracturing the magic they had begun to create. Lucy's heart dropped, the moment slipping through their fingers. As her eyes darted to the source, she couldn't shake the feeling that something was about to change for better or worse. What would this new chaos mean for their burgeoning hope? The air buzzed with uncertainty. Again, and Lucy's heart raced. Would the fractures grow, or could they still mend together? The sound of breaking glass echoed like a gunshot, startling everyone. Lucy's stomach dropped as chaos erupted. People scrambled back, voices rising in confusion. Mr. Jennings's tension snapped, and he spun around, searching for the source of the disturbance. Everyone stay calm. He shouted, though his voice wavered. For a moment, Lucy thought the energy in the room might shatter like the window. Fear and uncertainty swirled around her, thick and suffocating. Nathan squeezed her hand tighter. Look, he said, pointing towards a group outside. A teenager was standing among the jagged glass, a baseball in hand. He looked shocked, his friends jawing at him. He just threw it. Lucy's heart raced, but this wasn't about the boy. It was about Mr. Jennings. Would he see this chaos as a reason to retreat back to tradition? Before she could even voice her concerns, Mr. Jennings strode toward the broken window, determination replacing his earlier uncertainty. Do you realize what you've done? He bellowed outside. You can't just let your frustration out like that. The teenager blinked and stepped back, visibly shrinking under the weight of Jennings' glare. I am sorry, sir. I didn't mean to. Intentions don't fix consequences. Jennings snapped, then turned, his eyes blazing. What kind of community raises people to act without considering the impact? This is what I'm talking about. This is chaos. A tense silence gripped the room, leaving Lucy's heart pounding in her chest. She could see the clenching of fists, the curling of lips around worry. But then, Ella stepped forward. Mr. Jennings, her voice unwavering, isn't that just what we're trying to avoid? Shouldn't we teach them how to express themselves honestly instead of letting frustration boil over? We can't deny their feelings. A murmur of agreement rippled through the crowd. There was fire in Ella's gaze, just like earlier, but now it burned brighter, illuminated by their shared resolve. Instead of punishing him, why not give him a chance to talk? Show him understanding. Nathan added, his voice only slightly less forceful than Ella's. For a brief moment, Mr. Jennings' mask cracked again, revealing the man beneath who had dedicated his life to these people. Lucy held her breath, feeling the weight of the moment, the fragile bridge they were trying to build. "Speak!" yelled the teenager, emboldened by their support, stepping up. "I just wanted to be heard, okay? I didn't mean to mess things up. All of us feel like we're trapped by rules that don't make sense anymore." His voice rang through the room, filling the silence with raw emotion. It resonated deeply with Lucy, igniting something within her. They were no longer separate, this was shared pain. When Mr. Jennings turned back to the room, his face softened just a little. "So you throw a baseball through a window to be heard?" Lucy found her voice, stepping beside Nathan and Ella. "Sometimes that's what it feels like," she said carefully. "But we can take this pain, this need for expression and create something new together. Let us talk about it. Let us share that space. We're more than broken glass, we can build a mosaic." Mr. Jennings shifted, the flicker of hesitation across his face wavering. "You're asking a lot because the future matters," Ella interjected, unwavering. "A future where we all feel free to express ourselves." In this moment, with the tension building again but transforming into something different, the door to change was cracked open just a bit more. Suddenly, from the fray of emotions, Lucy felt an overpowering urge to reach out. She stepped closer to Mr. Jennings. "Please, can you give this a chance? We need you to guide us, not push us away." The crack in the wall of tradition felt like all that stood between them and a new beginning. But just as the hope expanded, the teenager stepped in again, his demeanor shifting. "And what if the answer you fear is the one you need the most?" The question hung heavy in the air, twisting around thoughts and emotions, challenging Mr. Jennings to confront his own fears. The whole room held its breath, sharply aware that the next words could shape everything. Could Mr. Jennings finally embrace the very chaos he feared, or would he choose to reinforce the barriers that bound them? As the tension hung lingering like the fading shards of glass, Lucy braced herself for the answer that could change it all. Mr. Jennings's eyes darted between the teenager and the crowd, like a ship during a storm navigating unseen dangers. Lucy held her breath, each passing second stretching into an eternity. Would he finally bend? Would he listen? "Rules exist for a reason," Mr. Jennings started, although the firm tone in his voice faltered midway. "But if you all feel this strongly, maybe there's more to consider." A wave of relief washed over the crowd, but it was suddenly paired with the fear of what else might come. What if he simply changed the rules instead of listening? Ella stepped closer, her intensity palpable. "We're not asking to throw the rules out entirely. We want to be part of the conversation. To feel seen." I didn't think it would escalate like this," the teenager chimed in, his bravado draining away. "I wanted to shout without shouting. You know." Mr. Jennings leaned against the wall, the tension in his shoulders loosening, even if just a bit. His gaze softened as he took in the young faces filled with hope and uncertainty. Silence fell again, but this time it felt different. It was brimming with possibilities rather than fear. The community waited on the edge of change, hearts beating wildly in their chests. Lucy could feel her own heart match the rhythm, thumping loudly as she stepped forward one more time, even bolder. "We've all felt unheard, Mr. Jennings. It's what brought us here today. Can we be the ones to create a new dialogue?" Mr. Jennings took a deep breath, his determination battling with the fragility of the moment. "Creating that space takes courage from all of us." And then came a new voice. A mother in the back spoke up, her eyes bright with unshed tears. "My son comes home every day scared to share his thoughts, worried he'll get in trouble. That's not what I want for him." A ripple of nods spread through the crowd, swelling the confidence in the room. Parents, kids, friends, everyone feeling the weight of unspoken words. Lucy's heart lifted. This was it. We can have community discussions, real discussions. Not just meetings where decisions are made without our input. Mr. Jennings studied her, and she could see gears turning in his mind. And what would those discussions look like? Open forums, Nathan interjected. Art projects, town halls. Anything that invites everyone in. What if we made that space big enough for all voices? Ella added, eyes shining fiercely. Just as hope began to flicker brightly, Jennings finally nodded. I'll consider it. But it can't just be words. It has to follow through with actions. Yes. Voices clamored from the crowd. A wave of applause erupted, electric in its enthusiasm. Yet amidst the cheers, Lucy noticed the teenager still standing awkwardly back near the window. He looked less sure of himself now, as if realizing he'd only cracked open the door without stepping inside. What about me? He asked quietly, his hands stuffed deep into his pockets. The whole room turned toward him, the applause dying down. Lucy could sense his vulnerability, recalling her own fears of being judged. You're the catalyst, she said softly, walking towards him. You showed us that we need to let it all out, not just for us but for everyone. What else do you want to say? Eyes wide, he searched their faces, somehow recognizing support, finally relinquishing his hesitance. I want to talk. But what if I mess it up? Then we'll fix it together, Lucy replied, offering a warm smile. Just like we're doing now. And that's when Mr. Jennings, a deep inhale preparing him for something monumental, broke through his usual stoic demeanor and said, why don't you start now? Let us listen. The words hung in the air, pregnant with the weight of promise. The chance for something transformative lay open in front of them. Would they seize it, or would hesitation take over once more? As the teenager stepped forward, the crowd held its breath, ready for the next revelation. What more would spill from his heart, and would it be enough to change everything? The teenager took a hesitant step forward, his heartbeat loud in his ears. He felt like he was standing on the edge of a cliff, ready to jump but unsure if there was water below. Faces in the crowd were a mix of anticipation and support, urging him on without a single word. He exhaled slowly, clearing his racing thoughts. I don't want this to be just another meeting, you know. I want to feel what others feel. I want to be real, like when I write music, when every word counts. Right now, I'm not just scared of what to say, but of not being heard. A hush fell over the crowd. They were hanging on every word, feeling the weight of his truth. Lucy stepped back a little, wanting to respect his moment but still keeping an eye on the crowd. She saw the mothers whispering to each other, the kids nodding in agreement, and Mr. Jennings standing, wrapped in attention. I lost my best friend last year, the teenager continued, his voice trembling. He had a lot to say but didn't know how to say it. I think if he had felt safe enough to share, he might still be here. Gasps rippled through the crowd, and Lucy felt a tightness in her throat. It was so easy to become numb in these conversations, to overlook the real stakes behind the discussions. They weren't just talking about rules, they were navigating lives, vulnerabilities, and heartaches. I want to create a space for real talk, he said, his eyes now filled with unshed tears. Can we have a forum where everyone feels safe? Where people can talk about their fears, without judgment. I don't want anyone to feel alone anymore. The crowd began to murmur in agreement, the momentum shifting between those gathered. It was a melody of understanding, building like the chorus of a powerful song. Imagine if there were places for every kid to share their worries, Nathan spoke up again. A safe zone where we can brainstorm together, shout out loud with no fear, like open mic nights, where the silence could finally be loud enough to be heard. Yes. Ella added, her voice becoming stronger, more passionate. This isn't just about youth needs, it's about the whole community. Parents, teachers, we all have things we're scared to say. Mr. Jennings nodded slowly, filtering through all the emotions in the room. You're right. If we want real change, we need to create a culture of empathy. Are you all willing to work together on this? Together. The crowd exclaimed, the unity sparking like electricity. Hope was at their fingertips, and courage braved the air. The teenager looked around, still overwhelmed but thinking of the potential. We could even have art that represents our struggles and victories. Create murals that tell our story, he suggested, feeling a spark inside him grow. Exactly. Lucy chimed in, her heart racing. Imagine what they could do together. Let us show the world our stories are change. Let us give every voice a canvas. The energy was palpable, it felt like a slam of a drumbeat surging through those gathered. Mr. Jennings couldn't help but smile, shaking his head in disbelief. It seems we have much work ahead of us. Who wants to be part of the steering committee to plan this out? Hands shot up around the room, excitement bubbling in each soul. Lucy couldn't remember the last time she felt so connected, and she glanced over at the teenager, who stood lit up as if unveiling a treasure. But just then, as the jubilance grew, a shout pierced the air. Wait! A woman, her face flushed, pushed through the crowd. What if not everyone agrees? What if people don't want to listen? The energy faltered, and everyone looked to the woman, a voice of caution echoing through their newfound hope. Would this promise be enough to hold even the doubters? The answer hung in the air, waiting for someone to dive in deeper. A moment of silence stretched uncomfortably after the woman's words. The crowd seemed to take a collective breath, uncertainty mixing with the earlier excitement. The teenager's heart raced at the thought of doubt creeping in, he could feel the weight of their hopeful energy starting to wane. Lucy stepped forward, her voice steady but kind. I understand your worries, she said, looking directly at the woman. But real change doesn't happen without a bit of risk. Yes, some might disagree, but isn't it worth it to try? We can't let fear keep us silent. We can be that voice for the ones who feel unheard. The woman shifted her weight, still unsure. But what if the disagreements get ugly? What if those who don't want to listen drown out all of our voices? What if, Nathan interjected, his fiery spirit rekindled, we create a space that encourages respect? We can set rules for our talks, like listening first and speaking second. Just like in music, every instrument matters. If we harmonize, we can make something beautiful. The crowd murmured again, hope flickering back to life. A few heads nodded, as if Nathan's words struck a chord. The atmosphere shimmered again with shared excitement, like strings being plucked in unison. And it's not just about talking, Ella chimed in, waving her arms slightly. We can have activities to show what these voices mean. Art, music, poetry, creative outlets can express what words sometimes can't. The woman's expression softened. I suppose if we hold it well. If we think about the process, it could work. I believe in all of us. The teenager exclaimed, his voice now stronger, more resonant. We are not just individuals, we are a community. And community means differences, but it also means coming together. Let us be the change we want to see. The energy began to rise again, laughter replacing the tension. Faces lit with determination, from wide-eyed kids to weary parents looking for solace. Mr. Jennings, beaming with pride, raised his arms. All right, who is with us? Let us make a pledge to support one another through this process. We can set up our first meeting in the next week. Hands shot up once more, chatter growing into an excited buzz. The doubts were fading, replaced with eagerness, but there was still a lingering question, barely whispered in the back of the room. And what about those who don't want anything to change? A nervous voice broke through the excitement. As faces turned, the realization settled in the air. Not everyone would welcome their efforts. Would the fears and resistance they would face mirror their hopes too? Still soaking in the infectious optimism, the teenager felt the challenge sharpening, like a melody waiting to resolve. He thought of his friend, and how silence had claimed him. We just need to be brave, he said, his voice steady again. Brave enough to keep sharing, keep speaking out. And who knows? Maybe they'll listen. Lucy watched him, her heart swelling with pride. He was right, maybe a little bravery was all they truly needed. As they began brainstorming ideas for their forum and gathering thoughts for their first meeting, a figure emerged at the back of the crowd, someone holding a piece of paper tightly, determined eyes glancing around. What was their story? And would they add their voice to the chorus? Everyone sensed the shift, curiosity buzzed. The teenager's heart raced again, a mix of hope and uncertainty. What if this figure held the key to expanding their vision or to inciting the very doubt they feared? The figure stepped forward, a young woman with bright eyes and a trembling voice. I have something to share, she said, glancing around at the sea of faces. There was a hesitant pause, everyone waited, hearts pounding in anticipation. Lucy felt the vibrancy in the air as they all held their breath, a community on the brink of true connection. Please, go on, Lucy encouraged, her own encouragement ringing out with warmth. The young woman took a deep breath, holding the paper tightly as if to anchor herself. I've been struggling. I've been scared to express what I feel. I come from a family that doesn't accept me for who I am. I wanted to be heard, but I was afraid of being rejected. A wave of understanding rippled through the crowd. Lucy felt tears prickling at the corners of her eyes. This was the reality many faced, the pressure of expectation shrouding their true selves. I think, she continued, her voice gaining strength, that if we can create a space where everyone feels safe to share their truths, where we can come together, no matter our backgrounds or beliefs, it could change everything. There was a hush, followed by murmurs of agreement. Ella squeezed Lucy's hand, pride washing over her. The young woman was bringing light to the very fears that had haunted so many of them. We can build a movement, Lucy declared, feeling the spark ignite within her. A place where we embrace differences, create poetry, art, discussions, whatever it takes to ensure everyone's story is validated. Nathan nodded in agreement, spaces where we uplift each other rather than hold one another down. That's our mission. Suddenly, voices chimed in, ideas flooding the air. Workshops, shouted one voice. Community art days, another one called out. An open mic night. This idea resonated as excitement filled the room. Mr. Jennings moved forward, eyes shining. This is the community I want to help build. You're giving me hope that change is possible. The energy fused together, a chorus of laughter and shared stories. Hope felt tangible, vibrating like the strings of a guitar plucked into harmony. As conversations flowed, the shadows of doubt began to recede. They started to lay the groundwork for real change, excited yet grounded in the reality of their journey ahead. Ella stood next to Lucy, eyes glistening. We will face challenges, love, but every voice matters. Every story has power. Together, we're unstoppable. I believe we can do this, Mom, Lucy smiled back, realizing the strength they had as a family and a community. And with each word exchanged, each pledge made, the crowd became more of a vibrant tapestry than ever, their stories intertwined, hearts beating as one. They knew they wouldn't erase the past, but they could create a future filled with acceptance, love, and understanding. The young woman who first spoke smiled through her tears, blowing away the dust that had settled on her heart. In that beautiful moment under the waning sunlight, surrounded by laughter and unity, Lucy realized change wasn't merely about breaking walls, it was about building bridges. As the sun set over Maplewood, a new dawn took shape, one forged by empathy and resilience, crafted by hearts beating together, ready to embrace love for all it was meant to be. And as everyone basked in this groundbreaking moment of hope, the echoes of their laughter danced through the calm, signaling a transformation that would ripple outwards, reaching countless others who felt unheard. As the last whispers of the community filled the evening air, they all understood one undeniable truth: they were a family, bound not by their pasts but by their dreams for a brighter future. So, Maplewood would now shine not just with well-kept lawns but with the vibrant hues of stories woven into the fabric of its community, where every voice would resonate, each story would matter, and every heart would beat with purpose. This is the moment to be a part of something incredible. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive stories, leave a like now to feed the algorithm and show Your support for this amazing journey. Comment below your reactions and feelings about this life-changing transformation. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to feel this hope and love in their lives. Don't wait not even one more second to share. True fans know the importance of lifting each other up through these actions.